Greece, was born on the 10th of June, 1921. He was the youngest of 5 and the only boy.
Philip didn't have a very good start in life. He was born on an island on the southern part of Greece, in an old dilapidated villa, actually born on a dining room table. There was no running water in the house, virtually nothing to eat either.
His mother, Alice, was beautiful, formidable, yet troubled. Deaf since birth, she had taught herself to lip-read in 4 languages. Philip's father, Andrew, was brother to the King of Greece. Shortly after Philip's birth, Andrew was involved in a disastrous military campaign and arrested for desertion.
They were caught up in internal conflicts within a very volatile part of Europe. Prince Andrew was actually court-martialed, and he was only really saved from the same death as Tsar Nicholas of Russia by British intervention.
King George V sent a destroyer in December 1922 to rescue Andrew and his family from execution. Philip was only 18 months old, and legend has it he slept for most of the voyage to Italy in an orange box. The family moved to Paris and lived a quiet, uneventful life in exile. Then, in 1931, as Philip approached his 10th birthday, everything changed. Within 6 months, his 4 sisters married German aristocrats and moved out of Paris. Prince Andrew went to Monte Carlo to be with his wealthy mistress. Princess Alice was admitted into a mental institution in Switzerland. The house in Paris was closed. Philip spent the next 2 years bouncing between his sisters in Germany and his mother's brother, George Milford Haven, in England.
So it was not surprising that, considering all 4 of the sisters had married Germans, that they wanted really to bring him up in Germany.
In 1931, the Nazis were on the rise. 2 of Philip's brothers-in-law were significant figures in the Nazi party. Philip of Hesse was a good friend of Goering. Christopher of Hesse was appointed head of the Luftwaffe Research Center in 1932 and later worked for the Gestapo and the SS. He attended Gordonston School. He was one of only 28 pupils. When Philip left Gordonston in 1938, his sisters were caught up in Nazi Germany, and his uncle, George Milford Haven, had died of cancer, aged 46. Philip was homeless. Enter the man who was to change Philip's fortunes forever, another of his mother's brothers, Louis Mountbatten. The next 10 years would see Philip transform from penniless pawn into a proud prince.
Prince Philip was basically handed over to Lord Louis who later became Lord Louis Mountbatten, by the family as to become his sort of unofficial guardian in the 1930s.
Mountbatten was always playing long-term, looking for future advantage for the Mountbatten family. So, although he could never perhaps suspect it, it would certainly come off the fact that the young, handsome Philip, looking very Teutonic in a lot of ways, would almost certainly make a very vivid impression on the young Princess Elizabeth.
Elizabeth was smitten. Governess Margaret Crawford wrote in her memoirs, "Philip was like a creature out of another world. Lilibet sat pink-faced, enjoying it all." Having said that, most 14-year-old girls would have been impressed by this handsome young man. What, though, was the attraction of this innocent and rather spoilt little girl to an ambitious young man like Philip?
He wanted to show off to the royal family. He may have thought that at some stage this would help him become an equerry, perhaps, to the king at some future occasion, but he wanted to be the one they would remember.
Meanwhile, Princess Elizabeth continued dreaming about Philip. After the war, the relationship gently blossomed. But many were against the match. Not least Elizabeth's father, King George VI.
George VI wanted Elizabeth to have nothing to do with Philip. George VI, I'm afraid, saw right through him. He thought he was basically a ne'er-do-well out to grab his beloved, darling daughter. And King George VI did absolutely adore Elizabeth. There's no two ways about it.
Philip's German ancestry caused concern. Mountbatten was also aware that Philip might be more palatable if he was British. He lobbied hard for Philip's naturalization, And in February 1947, with the royal family conveniently in South Africa, the London Gazette quietly announced Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, RN, had become a British citizen. With a surname and a British passport, all that remained was some unfinished business in Germany. After the war, sensitive documents were discovered in Germany in the castle of Philip of Hesse, Philip's brother-in-law.
As the Allied armies swept through Germany, that kind of material was going to fall into either the hands of the Soviet Union or the hands of the British. And it was the British royal family, in the personages of Owen Morshead, the future librarian, and Anthony Blunt, who were sent out there to acquire the documents and forcibly bring them back to this country so that no one else could find out what it was all about.
Despite all these doubts, Elizabeth had set her heart on Philip.
George VI eventually gave in and gave permission for Elizabeth to marry Philip as a result of pleadings by his wife, who is now the Queen Mother, that he should allow the wedding to go through. That's what really clinched the deal. But despite that, George VI was against it. I mean, if it had been left to him, he would never have permitted the marriage to go ahead.
Begrudgingly, the king gave in. The engagement was announced on the 10th of July, 1947. In that instant, Philip stepped out of obscurity to become a public figure. On seeing newspaper headlines the following morning, Philip commented, "I read about myself as if I were some animal in a zoo. Elizabeth may have been in love, but was Philip?" On the eve of the wedding, the penniless pawn was promoted. The king would not allow his daughter to marry just a lieutenant. He became His Royal Highness Philip, Baron of Greenwich, Earl of Merioneth, Duke of Edinburgh. Philip and Elizabeth quickly settled into married life.
He liked all the way went with being married to the future queen. On the other hand, he also wanted just that little bit of freedom, that little sense that he wasn't quite one of them. In 50 years, Prince Philip has gone from the arch-modernizer to the arch-conservative. He's now more royal than the royals themselves.
I think he thought that Diana was beneath contempt. When she collaborated with Andrew Morton on his book, he saw all the work that he had done since 1947 to the House of Windsor, just blown apart, smashed to smithereens.
I think 1992 was as much an annus horribilis for Philip as it was for the Queen. Behind the scenes, I think he was able to play a more active role than the Queen in the problems of his children's marriages, 3 of which either broke up or got separated or divorced in the same year.
If 1992 was bad, 1997 would make or break the monarchy.
In death as in life, Philip felt that Diana was a threat to the House of Windsor. He could see her achieving some kind of godlike status. He went out and saw those flowers outside Buckingham Palace, outside Kensington Palace, and he could see a myth being created overnight.
It was Charles who, sensing the mood of the nation, stood up to his father and insisted Diana receive a state funeral. Philip had argued for a private ceremony. For once, he had been overruled. It was a symbolic moment in his life as head of the family. Prince Philip is a complex and contrasting character. Arch-royalist, yet modernizer. Champion of the nation's youth, yet distant father. He is much more than just an amoeba. What people think of him is not something that would unduly concern Philip. As he once said, "I am not really interested in what goes on my tombstone."